Brian Winnikins at World Dairy Expo. And thank you to our expo sponsors, including AMPI, Animal Wellness Center of Buffalo Valley, Elsivia Co-op, Bauer Seeds and Service, Farm First Dairy Cooperative, Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin, and Bio Vet. And we're in the Bio Vet booth, and we are with Dr. William Zimmer. He is founder of Bio Vet, and he has developed a lot of the products here at Bio Vet. And so we're going to chat with Bill today. And Bill, thank you for joining us. Congratulations. It's been, 30 years now?
30 years.
Wow. What was the impetus to start this?
So I was in practice as a private vet practitioner, mainly dairy in northeast Wisconsin, and figured out that a lot of the problems I'm seeing with dairy cows are nutritionally related. So I actually got into nutrition for a while as part of that and realized it wasn't really the nutrition program, it was the gaps in between the programs that we typically build for cows. And calves, the same thing. So we'd have these stressful periods that these animals would go through, the day of calving, the day a calf is born, that we needed to do something in between and what we could do from a dry cow program versus a milking ration. And that's where BioVet came around. We looked at nutritional supplements, we looked at microbials, anything we could do to help that animal's immune system, reproductive tract, things to handle the stresses it's going through, along with keeping its natural bacteria in its gut functioning the way they're supposed to. And that's kind of what developed into BioVet as it is today.
And that beginning for those calves determines everything.
Absolutely does. That what we call now the microbiome, which is the population of organisms, starts to get established right with the colostrum feeding. So prior to birth, their digestive tracts are sterile, and they're going to start developing that instantly when they're exposed to their environment, and that development then will determine what that calf is going to have basically for the rest of its life. So starting on day one, it's critical. A lot of times what happens to a calf in the first 30 to 60 days of life, and actually any animal that happens during that period pre-weaning, can ultimately determine what its gut function is going to be for the rest of its life.
And all of that means if it's not functioning right, we don't have milk production.
That's right, and we're always giving things away, because if you look at the genetic potential of all of our cows here in North America especially, but especially since we're sitting here at World Dairy Expo, there's some really high-end genetics here. We're really trying to keep as much of that as possible, because that's their genetic potential, and every stressor they run into, every bout of diarrhea as a calf, pneumonia, some of the things they run into like ketosis and even milk fever as an adult cow just takes away from that genetic potential. And that's really what we're trying to do. The genetics, quite honestly, are probably there for every cow to give 40 or 50,000 pounds, but that's not what we're getting because of all the other stressors the cows run into.
Talking with Dr. William Zimmer, he is founder of BioVet. Along with that stress, we have, during the summertime for adult cows, the heat.
Or even today yet as we're sitting here. This is abnormally warm for this time of year here, but yes, this summer especially, here in the upper Midwest was pretty brutal for a lot of people between the drought and the heat. A lot of areas around the country were very, very hot. I can't stress enough the stress that puts on cattle. They would rather have it be in the 50s is their comfortable range. When it starts hitting 75, 80, they're not comfortable anymore. If I'm just going to throw something out there for people that are listening to us today, is make sure you're watching the hydration of your cattle. Make sure they have water. Make sure you're using electrolytes. This is kind of like the Gatorade for athletes here. The water by itself only does so much. And Gatorade is the preferred drink for athletes around, or some type of a sports drink now. Those electrolytes serve a critical role. And I always like to tell people, if you think those are professional athletes, look at a dairy cow. She is the ultimate professional athlete. She's not just a marathoner. She is an iron woman, if you will, or an iron cow, because she's giving a calf, she's producing milk. The amount of energy that she goes through in a day and the work that she's doing is just phenomenal.
Now, we have hot weather today, but of course it's only a matter of time that we're going to get into, congratulations, it's 60 to 70 to 80 to 90 degrees colder in a Wisconsin morning, and that also, though, causes problems.
It certainly does. The changes in those temperatures are the real big thing that we get to, so going from cold to hot or hot to cold. And dairy cows can probably handle a little bit more, but calves in particular, when you start seeing those body changes, their body weights are so low that when I start seeing an external temperature change, their body temperatures are going to change, their energy requirements are suddenly going to change. What are we going to do? Are we going to feed them more groceries, more milk, that type of thing? That puts an additional stress on their digestive tract. So it can become a spiraling thing that we have to look at, and that's some of the things that we try to do here is we know those changes are coming, we know we have to manage for them. What can we do to help keep that calf, it's not only its own body, but its microbiome as healthy as possible through those types of changes.
So how can the products from BioVet help with this? Because you just mentioned, well, we give them more food, but then that causes more issues. So then we try to give them more food and more issue. It's like we're on a bad loop here.
Yep. It can be, and so a couple things. Obviously, there's some management things. First of all, if you're talking milk-fed calves, I highly recommend people go to a third feeding if they're feeding twice a day, rather than trying to cram more into just 2 feedings. Spread those feedings out. Normally, a calf, if it was with the cow, would probably suckle 10, 12 times a day. And we're trying to cram that same amount of food down that calf, liquid food, in a 2 feeding or 3 feeding period. It does overwhelm their digestive tracts. That can change pHs, change their digestibility, change their bacterial populations. So one of the things that you can do to help with that is to put in beneficial, generally lactic acid producing bacteria that are going to populate that lower intestinal tract and really help with that calf's stability of its digestive tract. And then when we start talking about grains and things like that, as they're going into that developing rumen, okay, today it's warm, so I don't eat much. Tomorrow it's cool, I eat a little bit more. I can start running into some rumen acidosis issues. So there are specific things that we can do, types of bacteria, yeasts, things like that can help keep that rumen pH a little bit more stable, so we don't create any damage to that, either the intestinal tract or to the rumen as they're going through these changes.
Talking with Dr. William Zimmer, president of BioVet, founder of BioVet. So some of the products from BioVet, tell us about some of those that can help out with these problems.
Probably the flagship that most people recognize our company by is a capsule product that we have called Ruminator, something that we would give to cows on the day they calve to help get them through that transition period. We make a smaller version of that we call GenerCap for calves on the day they're born. For the same calves, if we're looking at the milk and trying to, now that we're going to have some cold weather coming in, if we're going to make those alterations with milk feeding, our GenerK, which is a microbial product that goes in to help keep them going. And for the adult cows, our flagship there would probably be Generator Elite. All of those are going to help stabilize those bacterial populations, hopefully keep that gut as healthy as possible, then allow that animal to be able to cope with the changes that they're going to see.
And you've developed other products as time's gone on, right?
We've developed a lot of other products. Probably one of our bigger market niches right now is in the oral calcium side, so our QuadriCal product line, again, for fresh cows, just calving time. Most estimates are about 60% of adult cows are going to be hypocalcemic, so they're not going to go down with milk fever, but they're going to have low calcium levels for a while because their bones just can't keep up with that instant calcium demand. Even first calf heifers, probably 25% of those are going to have low calcium levels. And so this is just an oral calcium supplement that gets to their bloodstream, can help them get them through that first 24 hours or so until their bones can really catch up. And so that's been a really popular product, works quite well, gets cows going, actually results in more milk based on some of the studies we've seen, which you wouldn't think of giving something one time could actually affect milk production for the next 3-4 months, but it seems to. Most of the data we show gives you a couple more pounds of milk from that. And then for our calf side, since we're starting to come into fall here, we know that as weather changes, it's not only going to get cooler, but we're also starting to see some rain here now finally. And so when you have cold and damp, that's going to set these calves up for an environment that they're going to have more risk with diarrhea. We do make a wonderful line of electrolytes for calves now, and our flagship there now is called Baselite, which is just a wonderful product based on metabolizable bases rather than sodium bicarbonate. So it's really beneficial to those calves without upsetting that digestive tract pH.
And for producers that may not have been able to make it to World Dairy Expo to talk with you personally, they can get a hold of you and find out more about these products on your new website.
Right. The new website is up. It's fairly interactive, so it's kind of nice that way. We have an educational portion on there, so there's podcasts, some of the topics that we just talked about. There's one that's on there on fresh cows. There's one on hypocalcemia. There's one on young calves. So if you want to take time to listen to that, all the products are there. As a company, we are pretty free with our information, even on our website. We put a lot of stuff on our website that you don't find on a lot of other people's websites. So you get a lot of detail about the products, how to use them, everything like that, how to incorporate them into your own program, because just because we have a great product, you still need to understand as a producer, how does it fit into my operation? You know, how does it work on my farm? And those are some of the things that are there to say, okay, here's your operation, here's maybe a weak link you're looking for, this product would fill that niche. Now, which one do you like best based on your preference, your ease of use, your abilities, those types of things.
You can find out more at bio-vet.com. That's bio-vet.com. And before we let you go, Bill, with Zoom and all of that, if my farm, I got a question, can we do a meeting? Can you do that?
We don't do a lot of Zoom meetings, but we always have people there present. If you call us up, we can find somebody that can. And if we're not in the office today, our sales reps are around. We have a wonderful sales force all over the country, and they're highly knowledgeable. And if they can't answer the question, they will certainly bring it back. Either myself or the other staff veterinarian that we brought on board, who unfortunately can't be here today because he's busy doing some other educational processes. But we can answer those questions. We can get you the information as much as we can, and we have a really knowledgeable staff that can help out with that.
Again, visit bio-vet.com. That's bio-vet.com. I'm Brian Winnekins from World Dairy Expo. You're listening to WRDN.